I don't want to opt for moody boss, but I opt for a consistent boss. I rather have a boss that doesn't have, the 100% energy. If you're operating 80%, but you can consistently maintain, then I know what I'm getting. What I don't want is a boss that's 110 one day and then 50 another day, because you don't even know what you're getting.
Hello, I'm Chris Lisserman and welcome to Sparks, a series by Interactive Workshops. In every episode, we talk about something we can spark in work and life, from how to spark performance, to how to spark brilliance, to how to spark a shiny new Spark set. Look at this.
Look at that. Concrete,
Yeah.
signs,
Walls,
plants,
yeah.
lights,
drinks,
drinks,
a bar.
a dash water.
Wow.
Love it, Chris. Thank you very much
good.
for putting this together.
Absolute pleasure. And I can't take all the credit. It was Sam who's behind the cameras.
Excellent.
The
whole
all
team.
the work and a whole team behind it.
And does that mean that our podcast has become so big that we've been promoted to the next level up of studio?
Yeah.
I'm happy about that, Chris.
Self-promotion.
It's incredible.
And with our brand new set, we've got a brand new guest on the show. Welcome, Casey.
Hello, everyone.
Casey Chan, welcome to the show. Jonna, what a guest to have.
What an incredible guest. I actually first met Casey when we were in Singapore, and she took me to an office. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention it. Google.
The best office in the world.
Search engine.
She was working there, and she took us on an incredible tour, Chris, and it was the most ridiculous amount of different rooms, specialist rooms with special movable boards, restaurants. We even posed in the letters of Google in the O's with our heads poking forward. Didn't see a lot of work getting done, but I did see a lot of people having a lot of fun and the next generation being prepared. But Casey also, she's not just come with some great stories. She's actually brought her own entourage, possibly the most famous people. But not only have we got a new set, but our podcast now has a live audience.
Hooray!
Woo! This is really...
It's very fun.
It's really exciting. It means we can't make too many mistakes. So we're going to have to do our best job.
Yeah, and those two people are making quite a lot of noise,
Yeah.
aren't they?
2, 4, 6, 10.
I was going to say you're welcome for me helping you up your game.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've brought an audience to us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Casey.
And we should say also, you'll know this from the algorithms, click and subscribe, write a comment.
Do all of that.
Our overlords have told us we need to get more comments and likes because we haven't been good enough at promoting it. Then we've looked at the proper YouTubers and all the podcast people, and they all say, could you please click and subscribe? And they try to bribe people to click and subscribe. But please do click, subscribe, and write a comment or a like, ring a bell, press a button.
Subscribe. Do whatever is
Do
around
the thing
the
in the
podcast.
thing.
Do
Yeah,
the thing.
exactly.
Yeah, perfect. So we've got Casey Chan, APAC Product Partnerships at, I'm going to say it, Google. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your career. Where have you been? What experiences have you had?
Where have you worked?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. No pressure at all being in a new set and the first guest. So a bit my career. I think if it's okay, I'll start a bit about myself and my career.
For sure.
Born and bred in Malaysia. I pride myself as being British Malaysian. I came to the UK when I was 15 for boarding school, lived here. Started my career with Deloitte as a management consultant. And I'm really sorry to say this because everyone here lives in Britain, but we got a little bit tired of the weather. So we decided
How can you say that? It's like 30 degrees outside.
And thank you. You're also welcome that I brought the sunshine. Very welcome. And so I did management consultancy for 6 years. Prided myself best as a media consultant. Was very, very passionate about media. I had a little dabble in film as well before I went into my actual corporate life. Then moved to Singapore, worked with a digital advertising agency before actually just celebrating my 10-year anniversary with Google 2 days ago.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah.
That's a long time, 10 years.
Yes.
The food must be good.
Well, I actually haven't put on the 7 kilos that comes with joining Google. So
With
that's
the canteen,
a good,
yeah.
or maybe I've lost it. So that's good. And yeah, it's been a really fun ride.
What have you done in the 10 years that you've been there? What kind of things are you working on?
Oh, so very, very fun. It's actually my fourth role. I started off in compliance. Didn't love that so much. We'll talk about that in a bit. Spent most of my career in strategy and operations and recently pivoted to become a partnerships manager for Search. Honestly, the best job in the world. Really, really the best job.
What's good about it?
You get to work for Search, which is quite hard to say when you're in Asia, very far from the product. But I also get to influence a small part of how you experience Search, which is just, it's a very humbling experience because you don't. I think very few people get that experience. And of course, it's not just me. I have my team actually works on partnerships for maps, for search, for shopping, news. And I think, honestly, unless and we're not from a product and technical background, so to be able to do it from a non-product and eng background, it's a privilege.
I was going to ask you actually, so you said partnerships, but it could be that the relationships are the key thing, or it could be that the technical knowledge is the key thing. Which is the main thing to be effective?
Actually, both. I love both. And we do have to get to be very technical because we don't have product with us in Asia. So when you're talking to partners, you have to come across credible. And that means knowing your product. How I was explaining it earlier to someone was, imagine you're a salesperson who doesn't understand your product. That would be terrible. But it's also the partnerships. Like we obviously manage partner relationships, and that's very fulfilling as well, especially when you can kind of create a win-win. I think interactive workshops, you understand that a lot, right? It's about creating the win-win and the best environment.
Yeah. And there's certainly a partnerships-based relationship is how most business sales relationships have now been arranged. It used to be very much about client service, but we've realized that we're codependent on each other.
100%.
And we need to work together. So it's cool.
Yeah, we love partnerships and we love sparking things in those partnerships. In our podcast, we love sparking things as well. This time we thought with you, we'd discuss how to spark energy.
Excellent.
Chris,
you have something to say about?
Why did we pick someone like Casey for that? We should have got a really energetic guest in.
I think she's got bags of it, John.
We should have got someone that lives in the moment and kind of just, woo!
I'm going to I'll answer a question. I'll answer every question you have, but I'm going to throw a question back at you first, which is Jonah, this one is for you. You met me a couple of years ago. What was your first impression about my energy?
Woo! It was, I felt like I met an equal. So I bumble around the world kind of giving out energy, and sometimes a little bit resentful actually that other people don't give out it back to me.
Right.
But when I met you, it was like, whoa, this heart is on fire. So whatever that, what's your favorite advert?
This girl is on fire.
This girl is on fire. Like that kind of, whoa, enthusiasm, passion, but also with the intellectual part, which again is not just raw enthusiasm. There's a lot of deep thought and clear thinking going on as well. That was my impression. Is that the affirmation that you were looking for?
It sounds quite silly that I don't think I realized what a superpower it was until I started mentoring and coaching a lot. And the question I get asked a lot is, how do you have so much energy? And I think when you hear that a lot, you start going, oh, okay, I guess not everyone is like that. I think the get-go is I always feel like my energy is the same as everyone's energy. But apparently it's not. And I do find networking sessions fun. I mean, I know a lot of people are probably like hating me right now because networking sessions are painful for most people. But I think it's just, I do enjoy meeting people. And, you have to also be very self-aware, I think. I mean, I've done a lot of personality tests, a lot. So I know I'm two things. I'm not actually an extrovert. I'm an ambivert, but we'll go into that in a little bit. But I am an eternal optimist. So when I go into a new scenario, that's always, something fun. But my grounding principle today, I won't reveal my age, but, in the life experience that I've had, I have 2 kids, 6 and 8, so you can work out the ages. It's the fact that is that I am optimistic person, and that's what I love. And also, I know what I enjoy, and my grounding principle is always focus on what you enjoy. I think too often when you're younger, you don't have that gravitas, you kind of all my friends want to do that, or, I'm asked to actually improve my development needs. And that's very exhausting. I'm a proponent of StrengthsFinder, massive proponent of StrengthsFinder. And a lot of people are like, what does that mean? If you actually understand the Montessori model, so Montessori schools when you're a child, I didn't know about this until very recently, until about 6 years ago. You focus on raising your kids to do what they enjoy. And because what you enjoy is probably correlated with how good you are as well. Because if you enjoy something, you're going to be naturally good at it because you're enjoying it.
You just
Where-
end up doing it more, and therefore
Exactly.
you grow the skills, you invest the time.
But how many of us are then subjected into a corporate lifestyle of performance reviews where you're like, okay, let's talk about your strengths. Oh, and now let's talk about your development needs. And I'm not saying that development needs are not important. Actually, in the past, I used to use weaknesses. That was terrible. And then they will ask you to double down on meeting and filling the gap. And I'm not saying that's not right, but I don't think that's highly energetic.
Yeah, I agree actually. And I quite selfishly try and only do what I'm good at. And it makes me happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the positive, virtuous cycle. But I also have to work with other people. And one of our team members here says that the most difficult thing about work is other people. But sometimes they're in a job role which isn't their strength.
Yeah.
And then that creates this kind of conflict.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the dilemmas we face as a manager and as a leader is, what do I do if I've got a person in a job role that's not perfect? Can I adapt the job role so that it's perfect for them? Or do I need to try and develop parts of them? But also selfishly, I'm in a privileged situation. I'm a leader of a team. I can delegate the things I'm not very good at. But other people can't. They've got to be good at both organizing and creating and spontaneous. They've got to be good at attention to detail and big picture thinking.
And that person's going to take a lot of energy to shape into that role.
But they might lose a lot of energy in that role as well. I think that's what Casey's saying, isn't it? So how do you make StrengthsFinder type approach work in practice?
I think the first thing is awareness. That's the problem. I think a lot of people aren't even aware of what they're good at. And to be fair, when you start off in a career, you're also really just executing. And some people are just not good at executing. But that's not a bad thing. I think every experience you build is still a skill. But if you're aware of it, you build it and you go. You know, you do a year of it and you say, and I have a true story. So in my first role at Google, I was in compliance. And the role itself was absolutely fine. You know how I told you I am so self-aware, I'm an eternal optimist. And when you're in compliance, you are thinking about the 100 things that can go wrong with a deal, with the work. And so it was always just me going, okay, what could go wrong? And it was really against my personality, which is always about, what are the possibilities out there? How can we change this structure? And I knew very quickly, this is not the role for me. It was draining my energy every day. And to today, I will not, no matter how senior a position is or how good that job title looks on risk policies compliance, by the way, that's a lifelong job career in tech. I know it's no way am I going for that.
So to the listeners and viewers of our podcast, you'd say, try and navigate towards things that you feel that you enjoy.
Yeah.
But also you've got to know yourself to know what type of roles will stimulate you. For example, if you love crime dramas and forensic analysis of risks and digging into detail, then find a job that likes that. But if you're an eternal optimist and you got a lot of positivity and you want to say, woo, well, let's go. You've got a visionary kind of mentality, then you need to find a role or gravitate towards a role that allows you to be fully yourself in that role.
And also, that's the point of diversity, isn't it? It's to find people that complement you. So a few years ago, I was grateful enough to be sent on a course, so women leadership at Oxford. And actually, they were the ones who taught me this.
Sorry, did you get sent on the course or did you choose to go?
I chose to go on a course, but I was sponsored by Google to go on a course.
They didn't say you need to go on this course.
No,
this is for you.
Actually, I won a spot. I won one or four spots.
We better send her because she kind of needs to go on the course, you know?
If she doesn't, then...
maybe. Maybe a bit of both. But
we have an interesting opportunity for you, this course that you must go on.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
You know what? If they were paying 30 grand for you to go on a course, whether if they're sending you take it anyway.
You took it, yeah.
Yep, I'll acknowledge it. I'll go. But they had this fantastic module. They have a lot of modules, but this one really stuck with me, and I still continue using it when I mentor and coach other members in Google. Was a personality test come strengths test. And they essentially had this grid. Basically, your personality, according to Oxford research, does not change after 7 years old. That's you. And you may change, but there's not personality. Okay, don't
At that
question.
point, it's habits and behaviors. Is
Yeah,
that-
I was like, don't question me on the
Yeah.
the
lingo.
actual
Don't
lingo.
forget it, you're sat with a psychologist here, so
I know exactly.
exactly.
That's
We can
why I
sense check
very
this, yeah,
quickly
fact
went,
check
don't
it quite
question me
quickly,
on the
but-
lingo.
it's very well established that unless there's a huge life event, once your personality's kind of formed, it's kind of consistent.
And so the mapping was essentially your personality, what you love to do, to what you least enjoy, and then your skills, what you love and what you least. And you can see in a kind of like a matrix quadrant, you should always try and pick what your personality enjoys and what you're good at, and then the rest you work around. And again, I caveat is we're all in a privileged position to be able to do that in some form of leadership position. But when you're starting your career, you can't. But even then, you can go in and be much more mindful. And then I think you need to balance the energy. And actually, this is also a nice segue when I talk about myself being an ambivert and not a true extrovert. So I have so much energy when I'm meeting people, when I'm at work, when I'm meeting Jonna. But I have almost no energy when I go home. Like at night, my husband and I, he's also an ambivert, we like nothing better than to have our iPads. We don't even have a conversation. When the kids are down,
That's a
we are
relationship breaking down. We can
There's
help.
help. We can
There's
recommend a course for that.
Don't
actually.
worry,
course.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
have-
pay for it. Don't
I'll
worry.
have marriage-
£50,000 course we can send you on.
I'll have the marriage counseling after. We'll take that offline, guys. But we're so exhausted and we're quite like just that me time. And I think it's important to recognize I was also doing some me time right before. Just, calm the mind down, just be in your element. Had to learn all of that. And we'll also talk a little bit more. I know we'll talk a little bit more about that.
I think what you're talking about there is that you've worked out if your job is a performance and you treat it as a performance, therefore when you go to it, you approach it as a performance, you prepare yourself, you're rested, you put your energy in, and then you go home and recover and recuperate and feed yourself. People say the same thing to me. Where do you get your energy from? It's like, what time did you go to bed last night? I went to bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because I
It's
had
literal
10 hours.
energy.
It's literally,
You
I had
slept.
10 hours sleep. What did you do on Sunday? I went for a bike ride with some friends, watched my son play football, and nothing else.
You re-energized.
Yeah, I recharged.
Yeah.
And I think it's a common misconception. I think some people also don't treat their work as a performance. So they don't, like an athlete, prepare to come to work, arrive ready to go. They actually, the rest of their life is where they're spending their energy. And then sometimes they get to work and they're like, oh, I haven't got the energy for it. But that's because they haven't been a guardian of that.
And what you said about performance is so true because at one point, remember about 8 years ago, it was like, bring your whole self to work. But actually, it's not really bring your whole self to work. You bring your best self to work. No one needs your whole self. And I'm not saying that it's not like you can't be authentic, but it is absolutely preparing for performance. I mean, you're there, you're getting paid, and you have people, whatever your brand is, you have a brand. That's important. And however else you want to be outside of work, that's up to you. But I really
it's a very
like that.
interesting expression. Don't bring your whole self, bring your best self. I was actually coaching some senior execs recently, and I was asking them how they present themselves. And I had to say to them, when you come back from holiday, people don't want to hear that you've had a tiring holiday and your kids are awake all night. They want to hear you had a great holiday and you're rested and ready to go. So if you didn't have a great holiday and your kids were awake because they were in the wrong bed and you had an argument with your spouse and the food was awful and one of you got upset stomach, no one really wants to know that. Yeah, you came home early.
Yeah.
Just say, I had a brilliant holiday. I'm really rested. Yeah, it was a couple of mishaps. That your
Family life.
It's family life, yeah. But it's interesting,
Yeah.
that best self, if we all bring that, it's not that it's not authentic, it's that we're choosing to contribute that positivity to that
100%.
environment.
Yeah,
The
you're
same
bringing
as
an energy. You're literally choosing to bring a certain energy to the room.
But the same as if you're on a sports team and you had a big game coming up and you were coming towards the game and said, okay, so how are you set for the big game? If everyone on the team goes, well, do you know what? I just lay awake in my hotel room last night, anxious about the big game. I haven't really had any sleep. I don't know how I'm going to play. That we don't.
Suddenly everyo's nervous. And
That's the whole self, whereas you're saying the best self.
And you can still be authentic. It's just not, you choose your forums. And I love that statement summarized it. When you're in big forums, people want positivity. And the reason why is because human beings, as I've learned in another course, it's, you basically have, it's a reflection. People mirror how you feel and how you bring yourself. So if you're going to be a Debbie Downer, a negative person, you're basically bringing the energy of the whole room down with you. And I know sometimes they're like, oh, but that's really inauthentic. I'm like, well, yes, or you can choose to remove yourself out of that. If you don't, and in fact, I'm very happy to share, I'm actually currently on a bit of a break. And because I started noticing I wasn't able to bring my best self. And even I get it because of a high energy person. I know my best self is still a very good self, but it wasn't good enough for me. I mean, I remember having people go, Casey, you don't have to always show up for everyone. It's okay if you just take a step back seat. 100%. And I was able to do that, but I didn't like it.
I just took an extended holiday as well. But I didn't reach a burnout, but I was aware I wasn't at the level that I want to be at. But then I was thinking like the Olympic athletes, the sports stars, after the Olympic Games, sometimes they take a year off.
Yeah.
I said, I need to take a bit of a break and just recharge myself. But again, I think coming back to that point about self-awareness and choosing, a lot of people, I think, don't feel they can choose where they put their effort. And therefore they go to work, they feel they've got to do their job or other commitments, charities, social situations, sports club. And therefore, instead of feeling that they're choosing it, they feel they have to do it.
Yep.
And there's a sense of duty and then they've got to be there. And then they can't quite get that level. And I think it's quite natural if you, again, look at all different areas of performance. I mean, you could read my excellent book, The 8 Set of Human Performance, written with 8 times world champion and gold medalist and former special forces soldier. But the best performers, if you're going to be a performer, you've got to guard your energy. Again, we see it in the West End, don't we? Film stars, I'm going to take an extended break. I'm going to recharge myself so I can bring back my best self.
Go out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
Have a retreat. I'm picking up on some things that we're saying are energy boosters, particularly for you. Go away, have some time to yourself, choose what you love. That's their kind of energy boosters. And also there's a way we can craft a narrative around our energy as well. You're both high energy people. We've seen that already.
Sorry about that, Chris.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. How do you see that as a psychological thing that you're high energy people, or is that literally that you've had more sleep or that you have rested well and are ready to
I think we
it?
should both independently decide and then we'll say, is it like choice or nature?
Are we going 1, 2, 3 and then we're doing it together?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Nature.
It's nature.
And in fact, before you ask that question, I was going to go, can I give a shout out to introverts? Because I don't think the workplace is built for introverts so much,
The world isn't really.
No, yesteryears. I think we're doing much better now in acknowledging introverts. And because we talk about energy, right? And you're also unfortunately it'd be nice if one of us was an introvert and one of us was an extrovert, but
I'll represent introvert corner.
If you look into the way that those definitions are, that Myers-Briggs are the people who do the introversion, extroversion definition. What's interesting is we actually get a score on both axes. So they're separate variables. And the way that Myers-Briggs encode it is that one of them wins. So really, we're all extroverts and introverts. It's a bit of a...
We're all ambiverts,
It's a bit of a moot point.
Yeah.
The question is which one dominates.
Yes.
And Myers-Briggs made a lot of money from telling us that the one that dominates is the one that's the type we are as a human being. Mm-hmm. Whereas in fact, we all have a score. So again, people are very surprised to see how much time I would spend alone. When I'm with people, they see me sparking. Probably I spend a lot of time on my own. Even at work, I go out at lunchtime by myself because I'm in meetings all day.
Yeah.
So other people meet because they're at computers all day. They meet for lunch. I don't want to meet for lunch because I want to go and lay in the park, take a walk around the block, go to the coffee shop, recharge. It's also the nature of the work that I have to do.
I think, and similarly, just because we're extroverts or more extroverted, it doesn't mean that I like talking to people all the time. Again, back to if it's a conversation I'm not enjoying, then I'm extracting myself,
You don't want to spend more energy than
exactly.
you want to spend.
And similarly, I think you said this: protect your energy. And I've worked
the guardian of the energy.
So I used to be chief of staff for someone who is introverted, my senior director, and his calendar was beautiful. So he protected his block. He would block time out for, like thinking time, because that was what he needed to recharge so that when he meets people, he has energy. So a lot of it starts with being self-aware of your energy level, which I think is a crazy thing. Mind you, as self-aware as I am, it took this period of, feeling a bit burnt out to actually realize even I get burnt out. I'm very high energy, but, I was juggling a ton. I have 2 kids. And it was I was basically trying to be 150% on work, life, kids. And it's not sustainable.
I love the amount of energy you've still got left over even having just taking a few weeks out to kind of recuperate.
Oh,
look at this. I mean, this is
full of
this
energy.
is high. It's very high octane for someone who's saying I've probably overdone it a bit.
Yeah.
No, and I think when I told people, and I'm very honest, and honestly, I want to talk about it because I think it's a spectrum. I think burnout's such a nasty word. It's like everyone goes, oh, you're burnout, but you don't look burnout. I'm like, you don't need to look burnout. There's a spectrum of burnout.
You probably won't look burnout, especially at work, will you?
Yeah.
There won't be visible signs.
And that would be terrible, actually, let's face
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I think it's not that. I mean, it's the same for what I did over the summer. But being self-aware enables you to, if you're self-aware, but also you believe that you have the power over your own life to make choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you take charge of the situation. I was in the Scouts when I was a kid, and I've got to eternally thank my Scout leader, Keith. But he drilled into it that other people won't be taking charge. So if you see someone falling over in the street and you see a crowd gather around, you think there'll be a first aid or someone's called the ambulance, but no one else will necessarily have taken charge. He drilled into us. You walk over and you find out what's going on and you take charge and you make sure an ambulance is called. And if someone's already called it and it's all good, great. But it's very likely actually no one's a
And
first
everyone's
aider.
assuming someone else has.
Yeah, exactly. And but I think it's similar with your own life. If you are you actually taking charge of it? And again, I studied under a psychotherapist for a number of years, and his thing was, who's driving the train of your life? Like, we're all on this track. Who's in the cab? You're in the cab of your own life, or you're in the passenger seat.
Yeah. Is it your boss driving? Is it your partner
If you're
driving?
in the passenger seat and you're running out of energy, what can you do?
Yeah.
But you've got to make choices that you can do. And it can be about taking rest and time off, but it can be about healthy eating and sleep and all those other things. There's every kind of spectrum. It can be cutting out toxic people in your life and focusing your time on people that are more positive for you and care more about you.
Yeah.
It could be that you need to do a financial audit and think, is really your loss of energy because your bank account's also empty and you're overdrawing your credit card, your mortgage. But what the question is, any of those amber or red lights, if you don't feel empowered to do something about it, if you can't take charge of it, then you're unable to change it. Whereas I think you can take charge of a lot in life.
I think
right?
that's why I think people do meditate. I am a terrible meditator. I admit that. But what I realized the first week after when I went on leave was my brain was tired. I mean, of course, mentally, physically, you're tired. I mean, with work, kids, whatever, life. But what was devastating for me to realize was my brain was actually tired. And what happens when your brain is tired is you're not then innovating. You're not actually thinking of new ideas. And it's not a great place to be.
Creativity just drops.
It's everything.
It's kind of
right?
a self-preservation
Yeah.
thing that the brain's doing, I guess, to not give yourself more stimulus.
Exactly. And you're not.
It knows.
It knows. Yeah.
Like Jaws. Ding, 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 ding,
Dun, dun, new idea
ding,
coming.
ding.
Avoid.
Okay. You say it metaphorically, but it is true.
Yeah.
I recall, I think one of the first thing is, whenever someone would share a new idea, it's a no, because it's too hard. Like literally my brain was going, it's too hard. There's all these things and that's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the symptoms and a sign. Mine went mentally and then physically before I took action. And the biggest message I have here is energy is about being kind to yourself. It's actually allowing you, to your point, to take control, but actually being kind to yourself. Most of the time, I recall my first journey, it wasn't even about people not permitting me. It was the hardest battle was with myself. And the questions that went through my head was, am I overreacting? I mean, I grew up, in an Asian household. They do not teach you. Do not teach you to acknowledge your own emotions. They teach you to dig deep, go on. And it's actually very consistent when I speak to a lot of my friends. It's just one of those, don't make a problem out of nothing. And that was a very, very difficult journey for me, which was, everyone around me is feeling kind of similar. Why am I the only person who's thinking about this? Why am I the only person who needs a break? And am I totally overreacting? Those were the first thoughts that came. And thankfully, I worked with a counselor. And also, thankfully, I realized, hey, just like how we learn autism is a spectrum, we should learn burnout is a spectrum. And you can choose to do something about it, or you can let it consume you till you're not functioning.
Yeah. I think it's, as you say, it's wise to make those choices as early as possible.
Yeah.
And I like this phrase of being the guardian, but there's no one else that can really, maybe your partner can, but the guardian of your life and the guardian of your own energies and your sanity and your health, that's something that you've got to take responsibility for. And no one's going to be more concerned about that than you. Even your best friends, like they're concerned for you, but they've also got their own life to live. Whereas for yourself. You're the person that's in the driving seat of that.
Yeah, I liked what you said about how when you're facing that burnout or low energy moment, it doesn't really look like it to other people. It might not look like it. You're both high energy people who others might assume always will be high energy. Like, why wouldn't you be that? There's that commitment to consistency thing that means we'll assume Jonna will always be high energy. Casey will always be high energy. Can you describe when you've been at your lowest, maybe? When have you been a low ebb on energy?
Yeah. Me?
Yeah. You go first,
You go
Jonna.
first.
We'll talk about high energy in a moment.
So I do feel that it's similar to what Casey was saying about when you're working on things that are not your strengths. And I know that, so I'm also big vision person, drive things forward, also like to see success. So for me, when I'm, if you characterize it on the business, I'm great when it comes to winning more revenue, but I'm awful at all the detail behind the P&L and like managing costs. Like if I have to go into the forensic detail of managing costs, it's like so dull to me. And then as a CEO, if I'm in revenue win mode, it's brilliant. But if I'm on manage the cost base, it basically means saying no to everybody. I'm awful. And so but I've got to try to be grown up. But in running a business, that's the challenges I face. So when I come to repeatedly saying no about things, or if things aren't good enough and I want them to be better, like I'm a positive encourager of people. If they come back to me with work that I have to say that's not good enough, please do this better, it really drains me.
It saps your energy.
It's really saturating because all I really want to do is say, fantastic, well done, go, revenue, go, sales, go.
You've kind of got an energy that's ready to give
just
that.
Go, just go. I mean, I used to work for BMW motorcycles. I just want to go, rev the thing, let's go.
Yeah.
So for me, it's, I'm really encouraging. I love developing people. If I have to keep revisiting things that are undone that they've said they'll do, or failures to achieve targets, whatever it might be, for me, although it's part of the job, it's like, this is not really what my strengths are. And so I find that drains me. And so I get depleted if I have a season where I'm doing that a lot. Yeah. Also, Chris is quite conflict averse.
Yeah,
that's
true.
I am prepared to go into conflict, but it drains me because I rather have equilibrium, good relationships. So the work dimension, that again for me, whether it's a client that we need to have some difficult conversations with, doesn't often happen, but a team member at home, like my kids were misbehaving last night. It drains me.
The tension.
I can deal with it. And I've got all the skills. I know how to deal with tricky things, but people creating tension drains me. And if I'm in that environment a lot, I get drained.
Yeah. What about you, Casey?
I think we talked a lot about any jobs that require me to constantly think about risk management. It's not, risk management, policies, compliance, audit. You'll not find me there. Definitely.
What did you do at Deloitte?
Management consultancy.
Okay.
Media consultancy.
I was thinking it might have been audit.
Yes. No, I could not. I would not survive 6 years. And actually one of my biggest pet peeve, it's when people rewrite your work and they say the same thing, but they just love to rewrite your work because it's in a different language. And that's what I try as a leader not to do, which is take the pen and just cross it out and rewrite the entire sentence. It's just not energy. It's not energizing.
Oh, I thought that was what you did when you're the boss. Is
I
this where I'm going wrong? Could you?
I think some people might call it micromanagement.
Oh, no. I just thought if they've done good work, I could just slightly reword it, put my name to it, and that would be
job well done.
Job well done. No, no. Oh, I'm in trouble, Chris.
I want to ask your thoughts on whether you can fake energy.
Ooh.
Can you fake it till you make it? If you're in those seasons, as you were describing, Jonna, where you're having to do what's not really your passion, can you and should you fake high energy and positive energy?
You can, but I wouldn't advise you to. But instead, I would say try and find another angle. In every bad situation, there's always a silver lining. I think if you are having to fake it, it comes through. Like we see it, right? We interview people and, if people fake energy or fake the joy, you see it. You absolutely see it. And everyone's like, oh, but how? I'm like, oh, there's no formula to tell you how, but you can. And even in a dire situation, I think there's always a silver lining. And so I would advise everyone to flip the thinking instead of faking your energy. And if you find a silver lining in it, whether it's going to be a good life experience or I'm getting paid for it and I get to go on a holiday, whatever it is, find that and then the energy will come. That's
find something genuine in it, even if it's small.
I mean, I'm a very direct and authentic person. And I didn't just make that up. My coaches and mentees tell me that. So,
Got it in writing.
as a validation. Take it for what it's worth. I personally find it very difficult to fake energy. It's draining and actually has a counter effect.
Right.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that I broadly agree. I would say as I've got more experience, I've started to separate out the office versus the person. So if you think about like the president of the United States, it's an office in itself, and there's a person that's in that office. And I feel like the more senior you get, probably, or maybe in a more customer-facing role, you've got to think about what the office requires. The question is then, if you have to fake it, for how long can you fake it before you run out of gas? And as you said before, people like consistency. They don't want a moody boss, moody CEO. So if you've just set the bar at a high level, you will need to keep that up consistently for it to be effective. Otherwise, you'll become a person who's good for a few weeks or a few months and then drops. And then, but maybe it's the end of the quarter, everyone realizes you go on the warpath and get annoyed or whatever. So I think the you've got to think about what the office requires as well. And if you work front of house in retail, McDonald's service desk, you're going to need to keep the level up because the office requires it.
Yeah.
If that means when you go home, you have to lay on the couch for 2 hours to try and recover your energy, unfortunately, that may be what you have to do. But then consider, is this the job that I want to do for the long term?
100%.
I'm saying gravitate towards ones where you're faking it as little as possible.
Yeah. And as you say, it might actually require more energy to try and
Yes.
fake it when you've got that gap.
I don't want to opt for a moody boss, but I opt for a consistent boss. I rather have a boss that doesn't have, the 100% energy. If you're operating 80%, but you can consistently maintain, then I know what I'm getting. What I don't want is a boss that's 110 one day and then 50 another day, because you don't even know what you're getting.
You should be writing courses, Casey, not going on courses. I'll come on your leadership course.
Excellent.
I think it's going to be some brilliant thinking in there.
I was
Definitely.
actually saying, one of my big dreams is to actually take time to write, but I haven't quite got that.
I'm not sure if I was being 100% serious, but now I feel like we've got to do it.
No, because in this whole journey that I had, I kept saying to people, I want to write something about the spectrum of burnout. Like the book would actually be called Spectrum of Burnout to educate people, because I think it's really important. And certainly forgive me if a lot of people know about burnout, but I felt like I was quite progressive at Google about burnout because we talk about it very openly. I had all the cards stacked in my, in my favor, as in there was not going to be a problem in my organization, not going to be a problem with the manager, not going to be a problem at all. But I had such a hard time coming to terms with it. So I'm kind of thinking, if I had been given such a good deck of cards and I had such a hard time, imagine if you didn't work for a company that actually spoke about mental health. And I'm sorry, the future generation is going to have the biggest, hardest battle with mental health because of social media and technology. If we can't openly talk about it or, be smarter about it, this is going to be a big problem.
Yeah. Well, I think we do in society, we have made huge shifts to talk about it. But I think you're absolutely right. The employee market, people are going to demand really good employers who have a good policy and practice with regards to mental health.
Yeah, it's got to be robust.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear a little bit, John, about how we're energizing our clients.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, Interactive Workshops is running a lot of leadership development. And I think we haven't been on Casey's course, but we'd like her to help us with the next one.
Yeah.
But I do think you referenced it a few times, whether it's stepping out for a period of time or whether it's going on some training, thinking about yourself, self-awareness. That is part of what learning and development is there to do in organizations. And I think sometimes learning and development is seen as kind of a small side function. With some online content and some rooms where people go for things. But in those rooms, there's people like you or Chris or me talking through what it takes to be a good leader, to lead teams that have got good energy, talking through mental health, talking coaching,
Awareness.
Mentoring.
What energy you'll bring, yeah.
And also going into the very personal, specific details and the kind of conversations you've had when our facilitators are running those trainings. That might be over a coffee, that might be after the course. I know I've often had programs where I've spent hours outside of the program speaking with someone about their personal situation, and everyone's is unique, thinking about what to do. In some cases, recommending to people either to speak to their HR or to go and see the doctor, or telling them that they need to take a break. But often, like the work that we're doing, we're not on the sort of helping and repair side and that side. We're actually how to set up a good system, how to lead a good team, how to create an environment with lots of energy. So I think those kind of the two yin and the yang. There's the personal support which we need behind closed doors and kind of for individuals, but the main thing is how to set up cultures that are as sustainable as possible, where the rhythms and rituals and the values and the actions and the leadership style is as good as possible, and how to get people into the right jobs. And also, one of our favorite expressions is that the most sustainable source of motivation is progress. So are you progressing? If you're progressing in your career and things are happening for you, if you're progressing in your work streams and things are happening for you, if you're progressing and getting results and you can see the results, if you're growing as a person, you can see that progress in and of itself is really, really motivating, but it's also sustainable motivation. So we work hard to help our clients and our participants in our programs and the guys that are working on learning content so that they're progressing.
Brilliant.
Could I just add?
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I love we talk about performance, and I think corporate life is very much like an athlete. I think a lot of books have been written about it, so I'm not, sparking anything ingenious here. But I think it's important to think about breaks or energy management as a pause, not a stop. You can pause your progression. You can pause your journey. It's not you're not removing yourself out of the race if you think of corporate life or work life as a race. Some people do. You're just putting a pause on it, and then you're going back in when you are fitter, healthier, and more equipped to deal with it.
I don't even think it's a pause. I see it as the circle of life.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's part of it. And in lots of organisations, they have sabbaticals and things. We
Yes.
can and should take
Yeah.
advantage of those.
Even the fastest cars have pit stops.
If you get onto gardening leave, I mean, come on, that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dream. The dream.
There's a lot of gardening to be done.
But
Got plants.
some people can't enjoy that hiatus. So if there's part of it is the mentality
It's
again.
hard.
If you're going to have a pause,
Yeah.
and you've got to see it as part of the process and enjoy it, you shouldn't beat yourself up for not being at the coalface.
Yeah.
365 for 45 years.
I think it's tough. I think it's a massive shift of how we were brought up, which is very Gen X environment. You work hard
I'm
and you
Gen
strive.
Y. Gen Y.
I know. We are. A lot of us are Gen Y. But we're brought up by Gen X's.
I'm Gen X. That's why I'm still here
Could be
working
Gen
hard.
Y.
Yeah.
To now actually shifting into the fact that, medical fields progress, we're all going to be living longer, which means we can all be working longer or retiring longer, whatever it is. I think it's a big shift that it's not a one race, it's not a one thing. And I agree with you. Circle of life, whatever we call it, it's a journey. And the one thing I did say, which I love, is for me anyway, when the analogy, a career path is not a ladder. A career path is a jungle gym. You take your own path, you go your own way.
Great.
It's no one else's.
It's a lovely place to finish our podcast.
Casey, we'll see
thank
you in the jungle.
Yeah, see you in the jungle.
Ooh, look
I feel
forward
like
to
we
it.
could do a whole nother podcast on just on energy with you. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so
much.
much.
Woo.
Yeah. That's a wrap. Thanks for watching this video by Interactive Workshops. Give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Click through to here or here to watch another video by Interactive Workshops.